Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. I would like to introduce for today's presenter is Professor Dr. Rosalina Ahmad Saufi. She is the Dean of Malaysian Graduate School of Entrepreneurship and Business, Universiti Malaysia Kelantan. Professor Dr. Rosalina is the Dean for Malaysian Graduate School of Entrepreneurship and Business. And the research methodology topic for today is data analysis and data interpretation. For your information, today's session, for the morning session, we will start at 9:30 a.m. and then we'll finish at 12 p.m. Okay, 12 noon. A recorded version of this webinar will be available next week. Okay, we will notify you via your email address that has been received by us. Okay, only registered email address will receive our notification. So if you don't register yet, please leave your email address in the chat box. During the session, we would like to hear from you actually, okay? Especially when you have any questions, okay? So you can just type your question, okay? You can type in your question into the chat box, okay, from the of the control panel. And if you have any further question, if you need more clarification from the professor, then you can email directly to Professor Dr. Rosalina. Okay, without further delay, please welcome Professor Dr. Rosalina Ahmad Saufi to present her topic for today's session.
Okay, very good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right, is it possible that you can make me the host, because I will control my slide. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so I hope everyone can view my slide. Dr. Zam, can you view my slide?
Okay, I can see the slide.
All right, okay, thank you very much. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to everyone. Today, I'm going to share with you some of my experience, okay, for over the past 30 years with regards to research, how to conduct research, especially the emphasis on the research methodology, data analysis, and data interpretation. So I hope the fellow students, colleagues here, right, and I was informed there should be more than 200 participants for the last session. So this is I think this is the third session, and it's going to be the fourth session next week. So can bear with me, and please interject whenever that you wish to, yeah, okay, because research methodology is the most critical part in our in endeavoring a research of a PhD or a master's program, yeah, okay, right. Okay. Oops, I'm not sure why it's not working now. Okay, what I'm going to do, so now is exactly 9:30. Okay, so this is the outline of my presentation and my sharing with you. So I will have the introduction maybe in about like half an hour. And then we follow with the part A of the research methodology, which consists the research designs. And then part B will be data analysis. And part C, data interpretation. So that will be done next week, yeah, on the 21st of May. Then I will do my conclusions on the research methodology aspect, yeah. Right, okay, I was made to understand, okay, there were a few PhD, there are some of PhD students and there are some of DBA students, okay. So in my introduction, I just would like to share with you the difference between the DBA and the PhD, because many of us, not just the students, but the supervisor, I'm so sorry if there's any supervisors here today, okay, they are not familiar what's the difference between DBA and the PhD work, really. So DBA, okay, Doctorate of Business Administration, and I was informed that many of you are from the DBA program, or even if you are coming from, I'm not sure whether there is a Doctorate of Economics, and soon we'll be having a Doctorate of Entrepreneurship, which is going to be launched by UMK, right? So the word Doctorate of something, yeah, Doctorate of Business or Doctorate of Economics, okay, that's reflect a professional program, yeah. And normally this DBA program is targeted for working people. So people who are reside at the C-suite levels, okay, they are managers or even executive as a matter of fact, okay, these are the people who wish to follow the DBA program. Okay, why these are the kind of people who wants to pursue the DBA program? Because they know that in the DBA program, there are series of coursework, yeah, okay, and series of coursework, maybe about like 60 to 70%, and followed with a project, yeah, a business project. I wouldn't say we call it a thesis or dissertation, but of course, under the academic stature, it is known as thesis or dissertation, but to the corporate people, there will be a business project that which you need to embark. And the business project, it has to be industry driven, yeah. So maknanya, okay, you have to identify what are the issues that occurred in the industry, real issues, and you as the scholars of the DBA, you wish to propose something, you conduct the research and you want to propose practical solutions to solve those problems, okay? So it derived from the industry into the academic world, okay? Unlike the PhD, the traditional doctorate, it focuses on the single PhD and can be a single discipline, okay? Basically, it derived from a theoretical framework, right? So there are theories to be understood, and then how you conceptualize those theories in order to solve the issues or the problems. So in this case, you call it the problem statement. Okay, so PhD basically has a major contributions to the theoretical or the body of knowledge, whereas DBA has the major contributions to the practicality in solving the industry issues or industry problems. Yeah, so as I mentioned, DBA is a professional doctorate, normally targeted for managers and executives, while PhD is normally a professional doctorate for academics, because the academics need to understand the rigor of doing a research project. Yeah, so that's the difference between a DBA and a PhD. So, and of course, the lingo of writing, how you express the issues would obviously different the way you write in the DBA thesis and the PhD thesis, yeah? Okay, right. If you have any questions, please ask, yeah? So these are some of the categories, yeah, which differentiate between the DBA and a doctorate program. For example, in terms of knowledge, right? Acquired in-depth knowledge of the research literature in a particular area of focus. Yeah, okay. Couldn't see. Okay, let me put it that way. Okay. Okay. So that is the academic business. So the other one is the more on the professional or DBA, as what you said just now. And in terms of how you communicate the research output, you communicate findings to narrow group of specialists in a format driven by the specifications of top tier journals. Yeah. Okay. Whereas for the business doctorate, okay, communicate findings to a variety of channels to deliver group of stakeholders, tell the compelling stories. So this is why you need to understand the issues from the industry, and you are targeted to solve the problems of that particular industry. Yeah. Okay. And in terms of research problems, for the PhD, number one, investigate problems that appear to be enduring in nature and where findings seem likely to generalize. Okay. Whereas for the DBA, investigate the problems that may be transitory in nature and where the generalizability of findings is largely immaterial because it's only targeted for that specific industry. Yeah. Okay. And meaning of rigor here, acquiring findings through systematic application of scientific method, right? Whereas the other for the DBA, take a systematic approach to investigating challenging problems using whatever research methods are best fit. Okay, right. And then for education challenge, okay, normally those who are doing a PhD, they are inexperienced full-time students. So therefore, they need to understand the research methods, the nature of business, disciplinary core knowledge, how to write for top-tier academic journals because you need to publish, right? And basic teaching skills and academic social skills. Whereas for the DBA students, okay, when they conduct a research on the DBA thesis, okay, they're teaching research skills to experienced students who are working full-time in demanding jobs. So meaning here, the supervisor is also very critical to understand and to guide the DBA students how to maneuver with the industry issues or problems and coach the students, okay, what will be the best research design, what will be the best research methods so that it will be appropriately overcome the industry issues discovered by the DBA students. So basically, so these are the elements or the categories, okay, that differentiate between a PhD and a DBA thesis. Yeah. Okay. So a DBA proposal, so you need to define, you still need to define very clear. And of course, the interesting part are the interesting part is the issues that derive from the industry. So what are the issues that you have discovered from the industry that you need to solve those issues? So it has to be practical. It has to be pragmatic. Yeah. Okay. And you must introduce something which is very relevant. Okay. The practical methods, okay, must be very relevant, appropriate to the industry issues that you want to solve it. And the research questions, okay, must be geared to the issues or problems that you have discovered from the industry. Yeah, and whatever the outcomes from the research, okay, from the DBA research, it has to be relevant in solving this issue. So it may be in policy implications, it may be some intervention program, shifting certain work characteristics, or working conditions and so forth, which the management of the industry or the company feels that it is very practical and makes sense to solve the issues that they are facing. Yeah, unlike a PhD proposal, you're basically deriving from the theory and how you test the theory and match with the issues, or you call it the research problems that you have discovered. Right. Okay. Any questions before I move on? Okay. So that is just an introduction, okay, to give a very clear picture between a PhD and a DBA research. Any questions? Right. So if there's no questions, I will just proceed. Okay. So today, what the past two sections, okay, you have been introduce about how to identify research problem, how to conduct a proper literature review, identify the research questions and the research objectives. Yeah, okay. So that is of course the fundamental part before you embark properly on your research. Okay, you need to understand your research problems. Yeah. Kalau DBA program, if you're doing a DBA, so basically you need to understand what are the issues that I want to solve here, right? And of course, from the academic language, we call it the research problem, or what is the problem statement. Okay, it's not the problem that you are facing as a student, right? But the problem statement related to your research, yeah? So for a PhD, for a DBA students, okay, I normally would ask the students, okay, what are the issues that you want to solve, right? So issues, we normally use the word issues in the DBA thesis, but we use research problem in the PhD thesis. But don't worry, okay, if let's say your supervisor or your examiner asks you, if you're doing a DBA, yeah, okay, what is your research problem? Make sure that you understand. If I am a DBA student, the moment that examiner asks you, what is your research problem? Bear in your mind that they are asking what are the issues that you want to solve. Explain it very well. You must explain it thoroughly. As a working people, if you are doing a DBA program, you make sure that you can speak from the corporate language, yeah, to make the examiners and your supervisor understand fully the issues that you wish to solve. Yeah, okay. So today I'm going to discuss in this within this red circle, what is the research methodology, which involves around quantitative research, qualitative research, which is known as research designs, and what are the types of research design, and the sampling process, and how you wish to conduct your data analysis later on. Yeah, okay, so that is, so in your chapter 3, you have basically 5 chapters, right? 5 to 6 chapters, but normally you have 5 chapters. Chapter 1 is what you say the introduction chapters. Chapter 2 will be your literature review, which you have done it last 2 weeks before the Hari Raya. And the chapter 3 is focusing on research methodology, and chapter 4 will focus on data analysis and results. And chapter 5, okay, will be discussed by Prof. Amir later, the discussions and the conclusion part of any PhD or a DBA thesis. Okay. Right. Any questions? Yeah. So this is the part. The next part that I'm going to discuss, I'm going to go a little bit slow. If I'm going to be very fast, please just raise your hand as you slow me down. Yeah, okay. So this is research methodology, which normally it is written in the chapter 3 of your thesis. Okay. So the learning outcome of research methodology of these sessions today is for you to understand what are the elements involved in research methods, to be able to explain what is meant by a research design, to understand the difference between quantitative research and qualitative research, and to be able to develop an appropriate research design for your research. And I was made to understand by Prof. Amir and also Prof. Hassan. Some of you have sent to them, right, your idea, okay, the proposed topic, and a little bit snapshot of a background of the research that you wish to embark on. Yeah, okay. So what is research methodology, right? So basically, research methodology is telling us to do or to conduct the research in a very systematic approach. Yeah, okay, a very systematic approach. That is a step by step when you want to conduct your research. It's just like an architect or a contractor who wants to build a house. Yeah, the analogy that I always give is just like a construction of a building. Okay, for a house to be built, what does it contain within the house, within the walls of the house? There must be structure, isn't it? If there's no structure, the house or the building will collapse. If you've seen how the contractor built a house, there's a lot of panels, beams, okay, that tie within each other. So those beams and panels are known as variables actually. They must be tied together. So if they are not tied together, they will collapse. So what happens if the panels or the beams or the constructions of building collapse? The whole buildings will definitely collapse, right? So similarly goes to a research, yeah? So if you do not have a strong research methodology, right? You don't understand what are the essence of a research design, the whole research will not be conducted appropriately. Yeah, so that's why, right, after you have identified the right issues or the right research problems, understand very well the research questions and the research objectives, okay? So the next stage is for you, hey, how am I going to solve these research questions and research problems and research objectives, which are eventually to solve the research problem. So therefore, I need to understand the design, okay? In the architect's terminology, they call it what will be the facade, what will be the structure. So that is the reason why you need to understand research methodology very well. So it is a systematic approach to obtain and confirm new reliable knowledge, okay? So where do you get all those knowledge? From the literature review that you have done, the chapter 2. So that's why we emphasize you to read and read and read. Even you are a master's or a DBA student by taught courses, you still need to read. Yeah. For example, I give you an example. If your manager said, hey, Rosalina, I'm going to solve a very significant issues here, the morale of our staff. Why are the morale of our staff is declining? Okay, they are not punctual, right? They neglect their commitments, okay? They are too complacent. They can curi tulang, okay? Our absenteeisms are very high, okay? What's wrong? Is it? So what you need to do, you cannot just say, right? Oh, yeah, la boss, okay? I know I've seen the people are trying to sneak around, okay? People trying to leave the job or leave office as they wish, okay? So that is from your observation, but your observation needs to be confirmed, right? So what you can do as a manager or executive, read, try to read from any article or published article. I'm not saying published journal, article in journal, maybe from a leisure reading, okay? Now everything is on the Google, yeah? At our fingertips. You can just Google it, okay, find the issues, okay, how to solve morality of employees, okay? So those are considered as knowledge, reliable knowledge, okay? And as a scholar, as a research student, okay, once you have done your chapter 1, your supervisor will guide you to properly conduct your literature review. So in your literature review part, you will be guided how to search good articles from reputable journals, articles from the books, articles from any blueprints. Yeah, okay, so those are known as sources of knowledge. Yeah, okay. And research methodology is also reflect a specific procedures to plan, select, collect, and analyze data or information about a topic. So go back to the the examples that I gave you. We want to solve issues of morality of the employees. Yeah. Okay. How am I going to do to search certain information? One, you can do it from your observation. You talk to your employees. Yeah. All right. Second, you may want to browse tools. What are the writings or articles published in the journals or in the newspaper or in any social medias? Yeah. Okay. And then you may want to make a comparison if there's any organizations have done some morality research or investigation. So we don't call it research in the context of industry. So normally we use the word investigations, right? Okay, so you can do that, right? So that is where it reflects. You have to plan, select, collect, analyze the data, and later on, right? Later on, you need to analyze the data and the information with regards to your issues, to the issues about the employees' morality. Yeah. And research methodology is also a science of study how research is conducted systematically. So this is what I'm saying just now. And remember that it answered two things. Yeah, in the chapter 3. Okay. One, how data and information will be collected or generated, and B, how data and information will be analyzed. So in the chapter 3, so this is what actually you will write, how data and information will be collected or generated, and how data and information will be analyzed. Yeah. So I hope you understand, and I'm sure some of you have gone through your research methodology class. So I'm just refreshing in this early part of the session. Okay. And another thing that I would like to share with you, the differences between research methods and research methodology. Okay, some people say, well, in the short form, when we say research methodology is a research methods, okay, but this is some school of thought has a different view between these two vocabulary. Yeah, so when we use the word research method, what is your research methods? So that refers to the behaviors and instrument used in the selection and construction of the research. Okay, meaning here, okay, we want to solve the issues of employees' morality. Okay, what would be the research methods that you want to use to solve these issues? Well, I'm going to use a survey. So that is your research methods or the technique that you're going to use it. Okay, I'm going to talk, I'm going to interview my employees. So that is also a technique or known as one of your research methods. Yeah. And when it comes to the research methodology is the process, the science of understanding how the research is performed methodically. Yeah. Okay. So from understanding the issues, okay, and then move on to developing the research objectives, and then conduct a little bit of literature search or articles, reviews, whatever information or data or statistical data that you can gather, right? And then followed with which methods that I'm going to use to solve these morality issues among the employees. Yeah. Okay. So these are the two things. So some research methods experts, okay, they are very disturbed when they say, when you try to tell us that research methodology and research methods are the same thing. So to those who are very sensitive about research methodology, they tend to differentiate. Research method is focused on the instruments and the behavioral part, whereas research methodology is focused on the process of conducting research. Yeah. Sorry. I just wonder, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we do, Prof. Yes, Prof.
Okay.
Clearly.
Because it was be very silent, so I'm afraid that I'm just talking alone, right? Okay. So is it clear so far?
Yes, Prof.
Yes, it's
Clear.
clear.
Yes.
Okay,
Prof, clear.
right, okay. So if there anything that you want to ask, please, yes? If am I going too fast?
No, it's
Or
okay.
just right?
Okay, Prof. Your
right.
face okay, Prof.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So the next, so I hope you understand between those two things. So don't worry so much. Okay. Methods is about instruments. Okay. I wonder Dr. Zam is calling me. So can you just give me a second? Okay, Dr. Zam, the host is requesting me to stop for 2 minutes. Okay, they have some technical background behind it. So I'm going to stop sharing and give rooms for the technical people to solve the problems. Yeah, my apologize on that one. Yes, Dr. Zam, over you. Yeah, I have, while waiting for the host to rectify something, yeah, I have somebody raise hand there, but I'm sorry I couldn't spell out your name because it's written in Chinese. So can you just tell us whatever that you want to ask? So somebody is raising hand here from it's a Chinese because it's a Chinese character there.
Prof, I'm not sure whether she accidentally raised her hand or not, but Prof, I think perhaps you missed out the chat box there. There is some question. Perhaps I just read it out for you so that perhaps you can
Okay,
answer.
right. Okay,
Yeah,
let
so
me
she
see.
actually typed it up. The one who actually raised the hand actually typed it up. She
For-
actually asked the question, do we have to write a thesis that is helpful for company existing problem? This is the question that she has raised.
Okay. The first question, is it DBA similar to PhD industry? Yes, the question is yes. Yeah, okay, DBA and a PhD industry. I know UTM has a PhD in industry. Yes, it is very much similar. Okay, right. So the questions from this Chinese person, okay, scholar, do we have to write a thesis that is helpful for companies' existing problem? Yes, if you are embarking on a DBA, yes, you have to write something which is very helpful for companies' existing problem. Okay, so the idea of a DBA, as I mentioned just now, is a very practical and very pragmatic. So it is geared towards solving the industry issues. Yeah, so it can end up to be like a case study, but the process has to be rigor, even though it's a case study. Or if you are using a qualitative research design in your DBA or your PhD industry, it has to be done very rigorous. Yeah. Okay. Right. And then for DBA thesis, do we have to practical to solve the existing questions to the enterprise? It has to be practical. Yes. For the DBA thesis, it has to be geared towards because it has to be industry driven for the DBA thesis. Yeah. All right. So what is PhD industry if comparing to normal PhD? PhD industry is a very similar to DBA program. Okay. Under the MQA structure, sometimes the PhD industry, definitely a PhD industry. So just hold on for a while. I need to, how can I co-host? Wait, I need to assign Hafizah as a host now. Just give me a second. All right, okay, so go back to the chat now. Okay, where did I left just now? Huh? Okay, let me close this first. Okay, someone is asking about UMK DBA offer the same method of study for PhD industry. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, because at UMK we only offer DBA and the rubric is memang geared towards the industry kind of research. Yeah. Okay. So what is PhD industry if comparing to normal PhD? Okay, so PhD industry is very similar to the DBA thesis, yeah, as I explained earlier. It seems DBA is a problem solving. PhD, I'm a bit confused with these two terminology. Okay, a PhD is a conventional PhD, all right, okay, which is very much the rigorous on the research process must be there. Yeah, so you need to understand the academic rigor, the academic writings, the technicality of academic writing style. Okay, understand the theoretical part. What are the theories that appropriate to govern the development of the research frameworks? Okay, so that is what it entails in the PhD research. Yeah, okay. Right. Okay. Any other questions before we move on to the next? Still kind of confused between research method and research methodology. All right. So research method. Okay. Just remember it. Research method is technique, method. And when people ask you, yeah, okay, if you are sick, okay, what method to solve your sickness? I eat pills. I eat tablets. So that is the technique. So similar goes to the research method in doing a research. What is your research method? Oh, I use questionnaire. I use interview. I use observation. But when people ask you, what is your research methodology in doing your research? I'm using a quantitative research design, or I'm using a qualitative research design, which are the you explain. If I'm using a quantitative research design, so I have to understand what will be my population, what will be the unit of analysis. It's about the process, the whole steps that involve in the research methodology. Yeah, okay. So research methodology is about the process. Research method is the techniques that you use to solve the issue. So it's only one part of the research methodology. Okay. Yes, it's the techniques. Okay, let's move back. Okay, so can we move to the slides? Dr. Zam, am I okay now? The technical part is solved. Dr. Zam?
Yeah.
Okay, so can I move back to my slide?
Okay. Actually, Prof, can you assign us as a host or co-host, because we cannot control the.
Oh, okay. How to assign you all as a host or co-host?
Okay,
I need
maybe.
to go to the participants, right?
Yes. And then find the maybe the link beside the name. Maybe
okay, what name that you want me to choose?
Hafiza.
I couldn't. Let me find Hafiza.
Yes, search for Hafiza.
Hafiza Muhammad Said.
Yes.
Okay. Then
can you see the any
has to unmute or what? Has to more make host. Okay.
Yes, make host.
Make co-host. Sorry. It has to be.
Oh, you cannot make as a co-host, eh?
I have to make co-host. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Then.
And then my name as well.
Your name is Zahari, right?
Zamha. Yes.
Oh, okay. Muhammad Zamhari Tahir, right?
Yes, my name.
Okay, I make you co-host as well.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, some more? Anyone else? Nizam or whatever?
Wait.
Who else you want me to make co-host?
Okay. I think that's all for now.
That's all for now. Okay, all right. Sorry.
It's okay.
Girls and boys. Okay, sorry for the interruptions. Okay, and some scholars there. Right. So let's move on. Okay. Okay, we've done. Okay. Right. So I'm going to go to the methodology structure. Yeah. Okay. So basically, what you're going to write, what you need to write in your chapter 3 is actually encompasses all these things. Yeah. So I'm going to share with you even the contents for chapter 3 and later on for chapter 4 as well. Yeah. Okay. So in the research methodology structure, so of course in every chapter you have to begin with introduction. Yeah. Okay. In the research introduction, what is the chapter all about? You have to describe one paragraph. Okay, this chapter 3 is actually focusing on the philosophy or the research paradigms, okay, and what are the techniques, the populations, instrument, how the instruments being developed, and how the data will be collected and analyzed later on. So in a very short, brief one paragraph for introduction, and then you need to explain the research designs, okay, the philosophy behind this, what are the paradigm that you're going to use, yeah, and then describe about the population, the sampling design. Very important, you must describe.
You student intern.
Okay, very important. Okay, I need to cautious students here. If you are a student, yeah, okay, please make sure you describe the population. I've seen many theses, they tend to overlook about the population. Students straight away tells about the sampling design. Okay, the samples we derive from this source of report.
Dia can speak.
Someone, can you unmute your ini? Okay. So many instances, students tend to overlook about describing the population. So you need to describe the population, even though you are doing a DBA student. Okay, when you talk about, for example, the first example that I gave you, we want to solve the employees' morality. Okay, right. What is the population? If you, let's say that you select 3 companies that are having a problem with employees' morality, so describe the populations about this company, these 3 companies. Justify why you are so interested about these 3 companies, not the rest of the companies. Okay. So as a scholars, even though you are a manager and doing DBA, but at least you understand within your industry, are they all having the same problem, or just your company is having problem? Huh? Okay. And then move on to the sampling design. Yeah, if let's say the population is too big, then you have to use a specific sampling process or sampling design in order how you select those samples from the big population frame. Yeah. And the other one on the instrument development, you got to discuss how do you develop, okay, orang science, people who are in the pure science, okay, when you use the word instrument, to them is the chemicals, okay, the chemicals, the all those bottlings, everything. So they thought that is the instrument. But in the social sciences, right, we also have our instrument. If let's say you are using a survey, so your questionnaire is the instrument. If you are using a focus group discussion, what will be your instrument? The focus group protocols, yeah, the interview guidelines. Okay, if you're using interview, then your interview guideline, your interview questions. So those are known as instrument. Yeah, so jangan terlalu ignorant. So don't become ignorant that when the examiner asked you, okay, what is your instrument that you have used? Huh? I don't know. I don't have any instrument. Oh, please understand the vocabulary a little bit. Yeah, although you are from the management in your company, in your corporate, right? So make sure that you also understand certain vocabulary in the academic research. Yeah, jangan sampai don't be too ignorant until you do not know what are the common language people use in the academic status quo. Yeah, okay. And data collection methods, okay, basically how do you collect those data, right? Okay, now I have the instrument. Don't be so arrogant saying, hey, I already discussed my instrument, so that is my data collection methods lah. No, not enough. All right. Okay, I need to know. So you have your instrument, that is your survey, but how are you going to distribute the survey? That's what I want to know. That is referring to data collection methods. So you want to put it in the Google form, or you want to email it, or you want to make a personal context. Okay, those needs to be mentioned and described in your data collection methods. Okay. And of course, the period of data collection methods also has to be mentioned. When? Sebab the reason why the examiner wants to know when do you collect the data, because in their mind, in the examiner mind, okay, they want to see the recent literature and how recent is your research so that they can be fair on you. For example, yeah, you have 3 years program. Yeah, you have 3 years of doing your research, okay, right? And then your data, so 2020 until 2023. So your data collections was done in 2022, and your viva was done in 2024, right? And then the examiner asked you, okay, when did you collect the data? In 2022. Okay, that makes sense why at that point of time, the validity of that data was relevant at that particular point of time. Yeah, okay. So that is the reason why you need to tell the, you need to write about how do you collect the data and when do you collect the data. And then the other part in your chapter 3 is about data analysis methods. Okay. Whether you like it or not, okay, you have to learn a little bit. Yeah, okay. When I did my PhD, that was in 1992. Sorry, 1992. I graduated in 1995, right? I need to learn. So that time there wasn't anything, something like what you do use now, the partial list PLS, right? Partially squared structural equation modeling software, even Atlas 18, and also QDA and Vivo. We don't have those kind of software. So the only thing was available is the SPSS. So I need to understand the statistical process, right? And if you can learn on your own, I tell you, yeah, okay, this is from my hard way of doing my PhD, okay? So I learned statistics. I learned statistics at that point of time, yeah, okay? So I learned statistics. I read about statistics, okay? So when I use this SPSS, so I be able to interpret the data, right? Because the fundamental is for you to understand what are the basic jargon in the statistical processing, and whatever software that you use it, when it comes to generating the output, you'll be able to understand it. And the other part is, before that, of course, you need to understand the purpose of each statistical procedures. For example, what is the purpose of doing a mean and standard deviation, descriptive analysis? What is the purpose of doing a regression analysis, simple regression analysis, okay, or multiple regression analysis? ANOVA, for example, what is the purpose of doing ANOVA, t-test, MANCOVA, or whatever, there's so many things. R-squared, okay, factor analysis, okay, AVE, there's so many things, yeah, okay, KMO. So all those things you need to understand as a research student, yeah, okay. But the questions that normally I give to my students, okay, if you don't understand, okay, I know that not everyone wants to be expert in statistical analysis, but the least that what you should know is how to interpret those data. Yeah, okay. And of course, the ability to interpret the data is actually stems from the ability to choose the right analysis procedures to analyze your data, actually. Yeah, okay. So today you can get help from any of your statistical experts, friends, okay, to run for you the data analysis. But at the end of the day, you are the one who have to be mastery in the interpretations. Yeah, because your friend may just know how to run the analysis, but may not be able to interpret it well because he or she may not know what is the main research problems or research issues that you want to solve. Yeah, okay. And then as usual, any other chapter, you must end with a chapter summary. Yeah, okay. This session is being recorded. Yeah, okay. So you can, I hope I'm sure the host will share with you. Yeah? Right, so this is the outline of the chapter 3. So don't worry, okay, you're going to have this outline. Okay, so it starts with the introduction. So basically these are, I would say, it's about the outlines that I'm giving you here is very comprehensive, that covers all aspects of what it should be in chapter 3. Yeah, okay. The research design, research philosophy, research. We're going to go through one by one later on. Yeah, okay. The unit of analysis. Please don't forget to write about your unit of analysis. Okay. And the population, sample size, the time horizon. For example, if you want to do a cross-sectional study, okay, between managers and employees, and then you have different groups of people, different groups of people. So when do you want to collect? If you have 3 types of sample, okay, normally if you have 3 types of samples, so you may have to tell. But if you have 1 type of sample, so the time horizon basically is a single industry, okay, just mention it, okay, when, yeah, masa tu tadi, yeah, the time that you collect the data, okay. And then the pilot test, okay, please make sure that you do your pilot test, yeah, okay. So then continue with that. Okay. So then you have your data collection method, how you're going to collect the data. So remember the methodology structure that I have mentioned to you just now, right? Okay. So these are the detailings of it, yeah, the outline. You can use this outline for your own reference, yeah, to guide your writing in chapter 3, okay? And data preparations, okay, what is the data screening, missing data, how you're going to treat all those data before you're going to analyze the data. This, I'm not talking about how to analyze the data yet, but this is still in chapter 3. But in chapter 3, you still need to tell the examiner, okay, how do you prepare the data? What are the procedures that you're going to use to analyze the data? If you're using SPSS 25, what actually under SPSS 25, don't just write one word, one sentence. I'm going for this research, I'm going to use SPSS 25. Maybe in the next 2 years, maybe SPSS 26 or 27, and I'm going to use PLS SEM. That's not good enough. You need to tell us, okay, under SPSS 25, I'm going to run the descriptive analysis, okay? I'm going to run the factor analysis, okay, to identify the outliers effect, for example, okay? And under the PLS SEM, okay, I'm going to test the measurement model and the structural model, okay? So that's good. At least you know, at least we know that you know, yeah? Okay. And then the measurement model is basically talking about the reliability and the validity of the instruments that you use. Okay, the content validity, phase validity, contract. There are so many types of validity. So I'm just listing down here, right? Because some students, they are very, very well versed in the statistical analysis. Okay, they know what are the validities procedures to be used. So they use everything. Content, phase, construct, convergent, discriminant, right? Okay, right. The question is, Prof, should I use all validity tests? My answer to you, if you can, yes, please. If you can, please justify. Yeah, because in doing a PhD and doing a DBA research, it's all about justification. Why? Okay. Why you choose employees' morality in the manufacturing company, right? The big manufacturing, the public listed manufacturing company. Why? Why you want to conduct, you want to see the HR practices among the university? Why? It's all about justifications, yeah, okay? So even when we work, right, when your boss asks you to do something, there must be a reason behind it, isn't it? So the moment you ask yourself, tell yourself there must be a reason behind it. So in academia, we are talking about justification. So that justification is actually telling you the reason behind what you do. Yeah. Okay. So structural model, okay, basically to test about the model. Okay, you talk about morality, employees' morality. Yeah. Okay. What are the factors that cause the deteriorations of the employee moral just now? Yeah. Okay, so you need to test that model. Okay, so you use the coefficients or the coefficient determinations and predictive relevance, the effect size, the F squared, the R squared, right? And the Q2, the Q squared, and so forth, right? So you need to understand this. Yeah, of course you can get your friend, right? Those who are, as I mentioned just now, those who are expert in the statistical, okay, to tell you what are these for. But you, as a researcher, you need to conceptualize it. When I use the word conceptualize, maknanya you have to have that ability to translate in the context of your issues. Yeah, your issues, the issues that you want to study just now. Okay. So the other part, this is talking about if you have something that mediating or moderating. So it is known as structure model with indirect effect. Yeah. For example, okay, you know, these are the factors that cause the morality of the employees. But however, despite all these factors, okay, good incentives, good leaderships, good reward, right? Okay, there's some factors also which you as a management, you cannot control. For example, the attitude of the staff. Yeah, despite whatever incentive interventions that the company gave to the employees, but if the employees are having a attitude problem, so you can't control it. So you want to treat that as moderating variable. So this is not something indirect. Yeah. So indirect is something which is beyond the control of the researcher or the company, but it has some contributions to affect the relationship between the independent variables and the dependent variables. Yeah. Okay. So you need to understand that very well. Yeah. And I believe you have discussed this in your literature review in the last sessions. Okay. When you, because the outcome of literature review is development of your research framework and your hypothesis, yeah, based on the research gaps that you have identified from the literature, yeah. And of course, as other chapters, you must have a chapter summary, yeah. So basically, there are 17 parts. Why it start from 3? Because it's chapter 3. So if let's say it is in chapter 4, that it has to start from 4, 4.1, 4.2 until the rest, yeah. Okay. Right. I'm just sharing with you, but this one I'm not going to go through in detail, but you can have this slide later, right? Okay, this is just for quick sharing with you, with those who are maybe interested to do a qualitative approach, okay? This is slightly different actually in the format of writing the chapter 3, yeah, okay? Or even the whole thesis of the whole thesis, yeah, okay. If I could just highlight where is the difference, yeah, okay. If you look at title page, of course, you have these abstract introductions, okay. So the methods here, okay. If you are using a qualitative, you have to explain clearly about the qualitative methodology and design, the research side, the purposeful sampling is more or less the same, yeah. Okay, data analysis procedures, the research roles, methods of validations, because the qualitative normally it stems from something which you are unsure, yeah. And people who are using a qualitative designs, okay, they are using the inductive design, yeah. Well, I'm going to go to that later on, yeah. Okay, right. But the rest are basically more or less the same, whether you are for those who are using quantitative format. Okay, right. So this is just to share with you some example. I think I've given you right. Okay, so just to show with you. Right, so this is from one of my students, yeah, okay, he's doing something on academic person environmental fit. Yeah, if you look at the introduction, so he is a guy actually. He did describe a little bit about the research paradigm, the research methodology, and of course, basically what I said just now is there, the population, the unit of analysis sampling, the questionnaire design, research instruments. So for the research instrument, if you let's say you have 10 variables, so please describe every variables in detail, yeah, how you develop those instruments, where do you get those items. Items maknanya in Malay, I'm sorry for those non-Malaysians, okay, items referring to soalan, yeah, okay. Questions are the big dimensions, but in the academic language, we normally call it items, yeah. In the questionnaires, okay, you have all those small item, number 1 to 3 until 200. So those are known as items, yeah. Okay. And dimension is their variables, yes. Yeah? So if you have 10 variables, so make sure that you list down all the variables again and how you develop those items to measure each of those variables. So in this case, he has 8 variables, okay. So he explained every details. Okay, each variable contains of 6 items, and where did he get those items? And then of course, don't forget, when you develop a questionnaire, okay, you must have an expert judgment and validation. So you must get expertise to review your questionnaires. Yeah, and then pilot study. Okay, you need to conduct the pilot study.
Sorry to disturb, ma'am. We cannot see the PDF because
you cannot see this.
Yeah, because you have to stop your sharing, then you share again the PDF. I think you are reading from the PDF, right? Your student thesis.
Yeah.
But we still in the slides. Yeah. You have to.
It's not linked, is it?
Yeah, not linked. You just stop the sharing the PDF. Yeah, again you share the PDF.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now you can see?
Yes, now we can see. Yeah.
Okay. Right, so this is basically, just to recap what I've said. This is for one of a sample from one of my PhD student. I mean, he has graduated already. All right. Okay, so basically it's there. So this is what I mentioned just now, the research instruments part. Okay, if let's say you have 10 variables, so you need to describe each variable clearly. How many items involved to measure each of the variable? For example, in his case, turnover intention. So describe how many items involved. What are the scales involved? Okay, scale 1 to 3. So 1 to 5 or 1 to 7. Okay, describe all these things. Why you need to measure from agreement to disagreement or satisfaction to dissatisfaction. For example, just don't simply feel that well. Since everybody is doing that, so I also do that. So everything that you wrote, okay, it must be justified and must according to your research questions and your research problems, the issues that you want to investigate. Yeah, okay. And the last part under the research instrument, don't forget to get experts to validate your questionnaires or your survey items just now. Yeah, so you may get, normally when you want to get professors, okay, or get people, so at least people who are expert in the field of your research. Yeah, maybe 3 would be good. Yeah, so they can comment on the items, whether the items are appropriate, the language that you use to measure the items, how you draft the language. It can be in Arabic, it can be in English, but if you're doing in Malaysia, okay, but it has to be written in English, and later on you want to translate it in Arabic or in Chinese language, you must make sure to get someone who understands and can read Chinese or can read Arabic to ensure there is a back-to-back translation. Yep. This is something beyond your class. I'm sharing you, yeah, okay, because during the examinations, okay, if the examiner asked you suddenly, let's say, in your write-up chapter 3, you say that the data, the questionnaire will be designed in 2 languages, okay, one in Arabic and one in English, okay, for the purpose of collecting the data in the Middle East. So I have to translate it in the Arabic language. Then the examiner asked you, who do you appoint to ensure there is a back-to-back translation? And then you said, no, I don't do, I do it myself. Of course, because you are from the Middle East, you know Arabic language very well. Yeah, of course, but you are a scholar, so we want to get a second opinion apart from you. So be careful. Please remember that. Yeah, if you are translating your questionnaire into your local language, please make sure you get someone who are experts in the English as well as in your local language for a back-to-back translation. And then conduct the pilot study, and bear in mind, those who are involved in the pilot study should not be part of your final respondents. Yeah, so don't lie to the examiner and lie to yourself. Okay, right. Okay, so those who are involved in the pilot study, they should not be included in your final respondents list. Okay. And then you see, he is also written about the structural equation modeling. And to some universities, okay, there must be ethical considerations, okay, especially, right. Bear in mind, okay, if you are doing a DBA, yeah, DBA or PhD industry, please check with the organizations if they require ethical considerations. Because to them, it may be sensitive because later on you want to publish your work through articles to be published in the journals. They may not like it. Yeah, so please get clearance from the company. Yeah, okay. And let's see, chapter 3 is with the summary. Okay, any questions so far? Let me see in the chat. Yeah, we're going to that. Okay, don't worry. I'm going to go into the research design and also the qualitative and the quantitative later. Yeah. Yes, definitely. We have to explain the research philosophy. I'm going to go into that in a short while.
I have one question, ma'am. I
Sure.
saw that in the sample thesis that there have the expert's judgment and then validation section. So in this section, actually, what should we include?
Right.
Like the
What
whatever
should we write,
the
yeah?
pretest? Yeah, I mean that it is it the pretest of the questionnaire? That
No.
what are the comments? Oh, okay.
Okay, the experts validation is about the comment on the questionnaire, but for the ethical considerations is about the ethics. Okay. For example, I give you an example back to the employee morality research that you want to conduct. To certain companies, they may be sensitive, right? So you must explain to us that in this research, we have get the ethical clearance from the respondents company to embark on this research. Yeah. So we just want to make sure that you as a scholar, as a researcher, you are protected. Yeah. The companies is aware and they have given you the permission to conduct the study. Unlike that, expert validation is to comment on the questionnaires, yeah, to comment on the items to measure those variables. Yeah. Am I clear?
Clear. And then what are the difference between the pretest and then expert validation? Pretest.
Pretest and which validation? The validity test?
The questionnaire validation. Questionnaire validation before the
questionnaire
final.
validation. Okay, questionnaire validation is after you have collect the data, right? Okay, then you submit to your validation test. Okay, you use that content validity or construct validity. So that is a validity test. Okay, the pre-test is actually your pilot test. The pilot test. Okay, right. Okay, some scholars, when they analyze the pilot test respondent, the pilot study, they do it very comprehensive. Let's say you have 50 respondents under your pilot study. So you need to submit to a proper analysis. Yeah. So you run your validity test, reliability test. Okay, that's to give you the idea that the questionnaires, okay, are reliable. So good enough. Good. But some students I've seen, they just mention. So a pilot test was conducted among 50 respondents. Then I asked the students, where is the result of the pilot test? He did not include it. By right, if you've done the pilot test, you must tell us what is the outcome of the pilot test. Any adjustment that you need to do on your questionnaire, any adjustment that you need to do on your framework, maybe. Yeah, because some students, okay, after they have done the pilot test, okay, they have to do some alignments to the questionnaires and also to the frameworks. Yeah, so that's the idea. What was the reason that we want to do a pilot test? Two things that we need to check. Yeah, one is to check on the validity and reliability of the instrument, and secondly, to ensure the framework is what we say practical, relevant, appropriate to answer your research questions and your research problem. So those are the two reasons why we need to conduct a pilot test. Yeah. So don't just describe that, yes, pilot test has been conducted among 50 or 30 employees at where. And where's the result? No result. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is a pilot test required for quantitative studies? Yes. Most quantitative studies, they conduct pilot tests. Are digital consent from respondent valid or acceptable? Digital consent, what is it? Are digital consent from respondent valid, acceptable, and ethical? Yes, it is acceptable as long as they seal. Yeah, they chop. Yeah, there is a company seal. Yeah. What is an instrument? As I mentioned just now, instrument referring to your questionnaire, your interview questions, your observations methods, your, what else? Yeah, normally for the social sciences, we use questionnaire, we use interview questions, we use focus group, we use pictorial picture, some observation techniques, or for example, I've seen some research on education at the kindergarten level, yeah, at the kindergarten and primary level, where they use the what do you say, throw card, cards, yeah, they use cards. So that is your instrument as well, yeah. So instrument in the social scientist language referring to the tools that you use to collect your data, yeah. Yes, instrument is part of the research method. Okay, right. So let's move on. Bit slow. Okay. One. Share. Okay. Right. I'm going to move on to the next part. Are you all okay? Guys, are you all okay? You want?
Yes, okay.
Okay,
Yes,
you want a 5 minutes break? No? Okay. Right, so we move on to the research design, yeah? Okay, so what is research design? Why is not working now? Okay. Am I getting right? Okay. Yes. Right, research design. Well, everybody is wearing clothes now, right? So look at the clothes that we are wearing now. What is the design that you want to call it? What type of design? Maybe you said a Punjabi design, Malay design, English design, Chinese design, Cheongsam or sari. So those are known as design. Yeah. So in doing a research, it's similar analogy. So we need to have a design, right? So the design is actually false, okay, with a lot of layers, actually, right? Okay, there are two types of design, quantitative or qualitative. Is actually, yeah, in a layman's perspective, okay, when you talk about research design, if let's say, yeah, I give you a clue. If your examiner asks you, what is your research design? The answer is either one, quantitative or qualitative. Then within that qualitative, then you have to explain, right? For example, if my clothes, I'm wearing a Malay design, but within that Malay design, so I have embroidery, I have piping, I have different flower or different color, right? So similarly, it goes to the doing a research, when you say that you're doing a qualitative design, what sort of, how do you explain that qualitative design? Oh, I'm using a positivism approach, the philosophy, or interpretism approach, okay? And then I'm using a case study strategy. I'm using cross-sectional, and that for data collection, I'm going to interview, right? So you see, these are all known as research onions, okay? Which is developed by Saunders and Friends in 2007, which I quoted the latest one, 2007. All research students, okay, please understand this. Okay, please understand this blueprint. Yeah, okay. You don't need to remember or memorize. Okay, I don't memorize it, and I don't remember as well every one of them. What I must know is what is quantitative, what is qualitative, and what is deductive, and what is inductive, and of course some of the methods that we got. But, and I'm sure when it comes to the philosophy, none of us could remember it well. What is positivism? What is realism? What is interpretism? What is objectivism? How different is objectivism with realism? Okay, and subjectivism. So you see, they are all very close. Radical, interpretive, functionalist, okay, practicalism, okay. Yeah, so I'm not going to scare you, yeah, students and fellow friends here. So I'm not going to scare you, but you can always refer this in your any of the research methods book, yeah, okay, right. So for each, why it calls onion, okay, you know onion, there's a lot of peels. When we peel the outer layer, then you have another second peels, right? A second skin there. Then you peel the second skin, there's another third skin, right? And until the root of the onion, okay, which is the heart of the onions, okay, without that root, you can't mobilize your research, which is that data collection and data analysis. You are so good in your philosophy. You describe very well your approach, your strategies, okay, what kind of techniques you're going to use, but suddenly you do not know how to collect your data. You do not know how to analyze your data. So that makes your research a waste. Yeah, it can lead to a wrong data analysis, which eventually will lead to wrong interpretation. And for those who are doing industry or DBA study, then it will lead to a inappropriate conclusion or decision making later on. Yeah, okay. So that's why in the onion concept is being used by Saunders because of the several layers of skin that entails different approaches, different strategy. Okay, I'm going to go quickly on this one, right? Okay, the first layer of the onion is known as the philosophy. What is a research philosophy? I'm going to tell you later on. Yeah, I'm going to give you the detail each of these. Okay, the philosophy basically is starting our research paradigm. The philosophy that I'm going to embark on my research is from positivism values. So if you're using a positivism values, meanings here that I'm going to be very, in a way, pragmatic, right? Something which is very real, okay? It makes sense that the employee's morale, okay, it derives from a lock model, satisfaction model. If I'm satisfied with my working environment, therefore my morale will be boosted up, right? So it is a positivism, yeah, values, okay? And also it can be objectivism, yeah, okay? So the directions that philosophy is basically the directions that you're going to use, okay? If you are holding to that positivism or realism, okay, or objectivism, they are quite closely because don't worry so much, okay, whether is there any differences between it. Some are quite overlapping. For example, positivism, objectivisms, and pragmatism. What is a pragmatism? Pragmatism right? Okay. Subjectivism is something which people who are using a qualitative study, normally they use a subjective. They make assumptions. Okay, for example, I give you an example. Okay. If you're doing a DBA, okay, the managers in company A, B, C are all very strict. They are very strict managers. Therefore, they are authoritarian leaders. I made that conclusion, the general conclusion. The managers in company A seems to be very strict. When I talk to manager A, manager B, CEO, CFO, they have the same way of thinking and same approach of conducting or making decisions in the company. They're very strict. No flexibility at all. So I made a conclusion that the managers in this company are authoritarian leaders. That is a very subjective. Yeah. So you need to prove that. You use a qualitative or use a case study. Is it true that all these managers are authoritarian leaders? Or is it from my just observations there? Yeah. Okay. So that could be also interpretive as well. Yeah. Okay. So the first layer is talking about the philosophies. The second layers, there are two types, the approach, either deductive or inductive. So just remember, deductive actually stems from theory, inductive stems from practicality. So people are doing DBA and PhD industry by right, okay? Normally, I'm not saying it is wrong, right? Okay, normally those who are doing a DBA or PhD industry, they would use inductive approach because the problems, the research problems or the issues they want to solve is actually stem from the industry. Then they will come out with the theory, okay, or some practical suggestions. Similarly goes to those people who are using qualitative approach. Yeah, people who are using qualitative approach, normally they will use the inductive approach because it stems from something they are not sure just now. So they want to prove that. So they induce something. They will induce the hypothesis and eventually they will induce a theory. That will be the ideal situation. If you are really a PhD student using qualitative approach, the outcome and the impact of a qualitative PhD, I'm not saying DBA, PhD should be a theoretical contribution. Those who are doing quantitative design, using a quantitative design, they normally use deductive approach because they want to test a model. Or the models they will adopt to govern the development of their research framework. Right? So from that research framework, then they will deduce that what you call the questionnaire design, or even if you want to use a interview or mixed method, yeah, okay. So they will deduce the items to measure those variables, yeah, and eventually they will confirm whether the theory that they have taken just now is proven right when they adopt it into their research framework. Okay. Right. So the second layer is the deductive and the inductive is known as approaches. Okay. So when you have chosen which approach that you want to use, deductive or inductive, then you move on to the third layer. So the third layer is normally known as what founders call it as strategies. Okay. So the strategies can be experimental design, survey design, case study design, and of course you want to use an action research or grounded theory, ethnographic or archival research. Archival research, okay, some of those who are doing finance or economic studies. you know, people in finance and economics, I always say to my friends who are doing economic research and finance, you are very ideal because you take all the data from the public, from the bursa saham, bursa, the share stock, share market, okay, and then you see the trend, and you want to ensure that this trend y equals to a plus bx plus bx2 plus bx3 and multiple by c1 plus c2 blah, 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 whatever lah, okay, right? So that is known as archival research. You want to see the trend for the last 10 years or for the last 5 years or whatever. Okay, it's also a research process. Okay, and it depends on the discipline of your study. But from my experience, I look more people who are in the accounts, in the finance. Okay, they tend to use this archival research approach. Yeah, ethnographic, grounded research. Okay. These are people who are using a qualitative design, yeah, or inductive approach this now. Action research also meant for people who are doing DBA and PhD in industry, because they want to make sure that the industry issues, okay, can be solved professionally through what they are suggesting through their research. Case study is focusing on a very small sample, but the rigorous to dissect the research, yeah, must be there as well. Yeah, in the case study, for example, I want to conduct a case study, a research in the issue. In the issue alone, what actually that you want to research in the issue? In the issue is very small. No, yeah, the issue is very small, but there is a very important issues in the issue is how to make the issue sustain, right? In terms of number of students, in terms of money, in terms of morality and everything. So the outcomes of the research is only applicable to the issue. It cannot be generalized to other university then. Yeah. So a case study normally it is only relevant to a specific companies or specific organizations, institutions that you invite them into your study. Survey is just questionnaire where you can reach a much bigger sample design, and experiment also has some limitations because you want to ensure that a certain issues which is relevant to solve certain techniques is relevant to solve that particular issues. Yeah, for example, in the context of social science, you have a training program. Yeah, let's say you have a training program on stress management. Yeah, so now people are talking. I don't know. Lately, I've been visiting by quite a number of people talking about stress here and there. Okay, the pandemic. I thought working from home is very conducive to everyone, but instead, right, it can be very stressful to everyone, especially to students, because they are not able to go out to meet their friends. Right, so then for example, the managements want to come up with an intervention program that is known as stress management. Okay, I want to find out how effective my stress management modules to lowering the stress level of my staff. So what I need to do is that I find a group of employees that I will put them under the stress intervention program, and another group of employees which they will continue their work as usual without any intervention of stress management. So that is known as experimental design. Yeah. So you want to experiment your stress intervention program. How successful is it? So for example, if you have imposed their stress management program to group A, you measure their stress level before the stress management program and after the stress management program, and you discover there is a decline in the stress level. Therefore, it's proven that your stress management program is effective. Then you took the stress management program to the different group. You want to test again, right? And it's also found that their stress level also declined. then you can make a conclusion that your stress management program is effective program. So that is known as experimental design. Yeah. Okay. So the third layer in the onion, the fourth layer now. Yeah. So the fourth layer is the choice. So now you know the techniques, the strategies that you want to choose, the third level just now, right? So now how am I going to mobilize my strategies? I'm going to use maybe single method, or I'm going to use a mixed method, or I'm going to use multi methods. Mono method, single. I think single. Yeah. Okay. Mixed methods, 2. Yeah. Normally you will use, like, for example, interview and survey or a case study. Or if you are very ambitious, you have that capability, you want to use a multiple methods. Wow, more than 2 methods. You can. It's up to your capability, and of course, doing the research requires money. Yeah, so some investment. Yeah, I have to be open to you guys, okay, because doing a research is about also having enough fun. Yeah, because when it comes to data collection, there's a lot of money that you require, because you need to collect the data and then analyze the data and for proofreading and whatnot. Yeah, okay, so it's your choice whether you want to use a single methods, mixed methods, or multiple methods. Okay, my advice, okay, if it is a qualitative design, right? If something new that you want to prove, right? Some new theory you want to come to that, yeah, then you have to use at least mixed method, 2 methods, yeah. But if you want to prove a model, right? For example, like masters in management by research, okay, then you use a single method, yeah. Even at the PhD or even DBA research, okay, students are normally use a single method. And again, as I mentioned, whatever the methods that you want to use, whether single method, mixed method, or multiple methods, okay, please justify. All these things, okay, whatever that you chose, yeah, it needs to justify. Doing a research, whether you're doing a PhD, DBA, PhD in industry, you still need to justify whatever that you write in your thesis. Okay, right. The fifth layer, it is known, this is the time horizons. Okay, cross-sectional or longitudinal. Okay? For example, if you're choosing experiment just now, definitely experiment, you cannot see the result within 1 day. Even you want to collect data, or say through the questionnaire, it takes you like 3 months, right? Cross-sectional, because you want to distribute your questionnaire, yeah, to all over the places, cross-sectionals, yeah, to company A, B, C, or university A, B, C, D, E, right? So that essentially requires a lot of times. What more if you're doing an experimental approach? It's a longitudinal study. So, right, some students ask me, yeah, especially those who are doing in human resource and training, especially on training, effectiveness of training. So they ask me, Prof, what is the design or the time approach, the methods that I have to embark on? The method, of course, if you're doing a training, you want to test a training effectiveness, experimental design is the best. Therefore, it's a longitudinal time frame there. Yes, because you have to do a pre-test, post-test. Yeah. So if you are capable within that 3 years, you do it. But if you can't, so let's look other approach. What would be the other alternatives if you can't do a longitudinal approach? Yeah. Okay. And the last part, okay, the heart of the onion, that is the data collection and data analysis. Yeah, right. So this is entails the techniques and the procedures. How you're going to collect those data. When you said you are doing experiment, hey, I'm doing experiment lah. Yeah lah, you are doing experiment, but how you going to experimental your training program? Oh, okay. I'm going to select 3 groups. Group 1, Who are they? From these people. Where do you get the source? From this employees database. Okay, what are the criteria? Now you must know what are the criteria to choose from. Yeah? Group B, okay, these are the kind of people with this criteria. Group C, these are the kind of people. So then what are you going to do? Okay, group A, they're going to meet every week. Group B, they're going to meet twice a week. Group C, they are control group. I'm not going to use and do anything on them. They just act as normal. So that you need to tell us the process of collecting the data. Yeah, that's known as data collection. If you're doing a case study, how are you going to collect the data? Oh, there will be some documented report, right? The archive that I have to read. Then I'm going to do interview because it's case study. I'm going to identify, in a case study, you need to identify what we call the actor and actresses. Yeah, the key player in the case study. For example, I give an example back to our example just now. The method of the employee morality. Okay, who are the players that actually influence the morality or disturb the morality of the employees? Oh, actually, they all don't like the CEO of the company. So that is the main actor. Go and interview the main actor. See their character, see his character, okay, his behavioral, his attitude. You have to pandai-pandai, you be smart enough how you want to probe the questions from the CEO. Okay, right. So the approach that, so you have to list down who are the main characters that you are going to interview if you're using a case study. Yeah, okay. And then the data analysis. Okay, then as I mentioned just now, you must know what are the statistical procedures that you want to use. Okay, right. Any question? Why is not moving? Next. Okay. Right. So this is just a nutshell just for you to understand, okay, the deductive and reasoning. So I'm going to use the next slide to explain this. Yeah. Okay. It's quite easy. Right. If you see this diagram, I think you can understand. So deductive, as I mentioned, is from theory to confirming those informations or to test those hypotheses. Whereas the inductive, using inductive process, is actually from your own observations or from people that you have talked, and you were trying to induce, the word inductive, yeah, induce certain hypotheses, and then hopefully you can induce a new theory. Yeah, okay. Right, so any questions on this one? Anyone want to ask me or not? If I'm doing a PhD, should I use deductive or inductive? The answer, yes, you can use either one, no problem. Okay, right. But what I'm saying just now, if people are using a qualitative design, normally a qualitative design is actually to use the inductive process. Okay, because you want to prove something. But my sadness now, when I look at the PhD work, who are using in qualitative design, they said they are using inductive, but eventually they are not producing a theory. They just use qualitative because they don't want to use quantitative. By right, if you're using a qualitative, you really want to really, the contributions of a qualitative study is to break the norms, yeah, to induce certain hypotheses and eventually to induce a certain theory. That is the remarkable contribution of a PhD using qualitative and inductive design. Okay, right. For the DBA student, should I use deductive or should I use inductive? It doesn't matter as well. Okay, you can use inductive or you can use deductive. No problem at all. Yeah. The fundamental of doing a DBA or PhD industry, normally it stems from the industry driven. Yeah. And of course, when you say industry driven, so automatically, hey, it looks like I have to use an inductive design, inductive approach. Yes, you are, because it stems stems from your observation, isn't it? Yeah, you feel that the morality, back to the examples that I mentioned just now, the morality of the employees are very crucial at the moment. So now I'm going to observe that, I'm going to research on that. Okay, what is the trend? What is the pattern? Is it very true among all the employees, or is just one segment? So if it's very true across all the employees level and categories, whether you are engineer, you are marketing, you are finance, you are production people, everyone is having a morality problem, then I have to suggest something. Yeah. So when you said that you want to suggest something, you are actually coming up, may not be a theory, but a very practical solution. Yeah, a practical solution to solve the issues of employees' morality. Okay. Right. I'm going to give you some example here. Okay. These are the, for example, yeah. Okay. If anyone is very familiar with the theory of work adjustment, TWA, okay, so TWA is normally used for those who are studying job satisfaction, job commitment, right? Okay, so from this theory of work adjustments, okay, you can make an assumptions or hypothesis, yeah, saying that employees who perceive flexible job characteristic will experience low stress. For example, you want to study something on job characteristic. Yeah, I want a very flexible job characteristics, especially those who are the younger employees, yeah, the netizen, the future employees. Okay, they are very young, like you guys. Okay, you don't like to be boxed down with all these time hours. Okay, if possible, I can come in at 10 o'clock and I can go back at 10 o'clock at night. Or I come in at 4 o'clock in the morning, I can come back at 4 o'clock in the evening or 3 o'clock in the evening. Okay, so if that is the assumptions, okay, employees who perceive flexible job characteristic will experience low stress, because this hypothesis is actually governed by the theory of work adjustment. Similarly goes to another example, employees who perceive leadership to be fair tend to be highly satisfied with their work. If you look at this example that I give you, it is a directional hypothesis. Yeah, I hope you understand it because you have touched this in your first part, yeah, in your literature part. Yeah, okay. This is a directional hypothesis. For a PhD and DBA and a PhD industry students, okay, please, it is best for you to be able to understand the directions of whatever hypothesis that you want to test. Yeah? Don't give, there is a significant relationship between job characteristic and stress. That is a master's level. Yeah. Okay. At the PhD or DBA level, I expect to have a directional hypothesis. Okay. Okay, next, the inductive. Okay, the inductive, as we mentioned just now, is from the observation to generalization and to induce a certain theory. So for examples that I gave to you just now, all managers in the company are very stringent. Therefore, they must be authoritarian leaders. So this is from your observation. So you want to prove this statement. Yeah? So that is known as inductive. Right? And then you can use, for example, the approach that you can use or strategies that you can use, case study design, right? You can interview, or even you can have a questionnaire survey to the managers concerned in the company. Okay. Right. The next part is about quantitative versus qualitative design. Are you all still okay?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So next, so this is what we have mentioned just now. So this is some of the things I will just skip because I have mentioned to you that you can just read later. Yeah. Okay. Right. The types of quantitative and qualitative research designs. Okay. This is something which is a little bit theoretical in the research methodology, but I'm going to try to explain in a very simple terms that you'll be able to understand. Okay, the first part of the quantitative and qualitative designs. Okay, you need to understand the intervention or the non-intervention research. Okay? The intervention research, as I mentioned just now, if you are trying to test the effectiveness of training, so therefore it's an experimental research. Okay, when it try to explain is there any influence of that training program on the stress level of the staff, that is known as intervention program. And then the non-intervention program, it can be associating or relating variables in predicting pattern for one group of individual. It can be a correlational research, okay, and a survey. So if a correlational research and a survey research, okay, it can be qualitative design, because you want to describe the trend. You are not sure about the trend, so embark on qualitative design. Something which you are very sure, then you can, my advice, you can embark on quantitative design. Okay. Before we make a decision, let's move to the next slide. Yeah. Okay. Then I will conclude that. Okay. The other one, okay, for the qualitative design, the ethnographic, grounded theory, narrative research. This is strictly for qualitative design. Yeah. I remember the second, the third level, the third onions, the third levels are in the onion, right? The ethnographic, grounded theory, narrative research. Okay, these are actually types of qualitative research designs. Yeah, okay. So ethnographic, basically you want to explore a group of maybe culture, attitudes of a certain group. Yeah. Grounded theory is, you can read the grounded theory, right, to explore certain commonalities, yeah, experienced by a group of people. Yeah, for example, if the group of people experiencing high stress, something that you're not sure, but stress is already a very common research. Yeah, okay. But you want to talk stress among, can you give an example? Maybe something among mates lah. Nobody wants to do a research among the housemates. Yeah, okay. I think we need to do a research among the housemates as well. Stress level among the housemates. The mates always complaining not enough rest, create stress and everything, right? So maybe perhaps you want to induce a certain new theory, particularly to targeting to the service industry employees like mates, yeah. Okay, or white collar workers. Yeah. Okay. Exploring individual stories to describe the lives. So this is something like observational or narrative research. So these three types are definitely a qualitative research. Yeah. Okay. Next one. Okay. You remember the 4th levels in the onion. Okay, the mixed methods. Okay. Combining quantitative and qualitative. Yes, you can do that. I can combine both quantitative and qualitative to understand a certain phenomena, so that I can understand better, can describe and suggest a better solution, because I've proven it through qualitative research and also quantitative research. Yeah. Okay. So that is a mixed methods research. And action research, when you use quantitative and qualitative data for individuals to study problems that they face in their setting, a particular setting, like a DBA study, yeah? You are doing a DBA, you want to solve the employees' morality in the manufacturing company, and that manufacturing company is referring to electrical and electronic industry, just one particular setting. Because if you said manufacturing, it's still wide, that is still big, right? But you want to narrow it down just into the E&E industry. And again, you want to use both design, quantitative and qualitative, so that you can see the trend. Maybe the middle manager would have a different moral issues. Maybe the lower levels would have a different moral issues. And the top management maybe also could have a possibility, could have a moral issues as well. So that is known as action research, because you are targeting at a particular setting or environment. Yeah. Okay. So if you go back to the previous one, yeah, okay. So if you look at this one, experimental research, correlational research, and survey research, these are normally purely used quantitative design, yeah. And whereas the other one, okay, ethnographic grounded theory is focusing using the, is a part of, is a qualitative design, okay. And of course, you can also use a mixed method, which you combine both quantitative and qualitative. Okay, right. I'm going to share with you, these are all some of the layers, right, involved in the onions and what should be involved in writing your chapter 3. I'm not going to read it out, but this is for your own references. Yeah. Okay. There are many research layers involved in writing chapter 3. Yeah. All these things, you have to ask me. If you don't ask me, and I ask myself, do I have to write all these things? What is my research philosophy, approach, method, unit analysis, time dimension? Yes. The answer is yes. Whether I'm doing a DBA study, yes. The answer is yes, because this is the part that whether you are a PhD student, you are a DBA student, okay, or even a PhD students, a PhD in industry, the research method parts, the chapter 3 is a crucial part which you must be quite well versed. Yeah. Approach, I don't think I need to read out this thing. Okay. Is there anything that I'm going to go to the chat and to get more to respond to your questions. Yeah. Populations, yeah. Okay, what is population? A group which you need to draw your sample from, yeah. And sampling size, okay, to represent the data. And you can use the G power or Kurji and Morgan, right? Okay, sampling techniques, basically you must need to understand what is the probability and non-probability techniques, yeah. Okay, and sampling frame, basically, okay, sampling size and sampling frame. What is the difference? Sampling size is the number. Sampling frame is how do you draw your sample. If you want to draw your sample, you must draw from population. And that population, where do you get that? From a certain source of information or data. For example, maybe if you're doing a manufacturing industry, you may want to get from the FMM report or any employee database if you're doing a case study on a specific company. So you must get those data from employee database or human resource database, yeah. And then instrument development, and someone was asking just now, what is instrument? The instrument is a process of developing the tool that will be used to collect the data. Number of items, which refers to the questions, references in developing those items must be written clearly, yeah? And what are the scales and to what extent the tools are reliable to be used to measure those variables that you want to study, yeah? Okay, next, okay, all right, okay, I'm going to stop there for a while. I'm going to pick up some of the questions. Okay, I think I have tackled it. Yeah, okay. In mixed method, deductive or inductive? It doesn't matter. Deductive, inductive is actually one part. Yeah, the first part. If you're using inductive, throughout is just inductive process, but when you use the qualitative or quantitative, you still stick to one process, which is you want to use the inductive or deductive. There's no such thing of, okay, if I use a mixed method, then for quantitative is for quantitative, I'm using a deductive process, and for qualitative, I'm using an inductive process. Okay, the danger if you have this Okay, let me ask you, yeah, if your examiner is very smart, yeah, okay, they will catch you on this point. Now, you have a mixed method and you are using a different design now, a different approach, deductive and inductive approach. Okay. So how are you going to triangulate? You got to answer that. Yeah, you must answer that carefully. How are you going to triangulate that data when you are using inductive or deductive? Okay. If I were you, my answer is very simple. Okay. For the qualitative design, it's actually to affirm that quantitative, or it can be vice versa, that quantitative data to affirm the qualitative. But how you're going to decide, this is going to be a long process, yeah? Okay, if you see me, then I can guide you. Okay, if it depends on your research, again, your research methodology, your design style. If the first year, your main focus is qualitative, the quantitative is going to enhance your qualitative study. Meaning here, you want to affirm, to strengthen the findings of the qualitative study. So it has to start from very beginning when you describe your methodology in your chapter 3. If you say that the first level of the research design is to focus on qualitative, and the second phase is the quantitative, so the flow has to follow. So in other words, the quantitative, the qualitative to support the quantitative. So if the flow is that the first phase is to conduct qualitative, the second phase to conduct quantitative, with the reason to enhance, to prove the theory that you have induced from your qualitative, then the flow of writing has to be written accordingly. Yeah, I hope you can get what I mean here. Yeah, Miss Hiranya. Yeah? Okay. I feel like deductive way is more clear. Yeah, actually, to many students, okay, many PhD students, even DBA students, you are using deductive. Okay, because perhaps you were geared by, or you were coached by your supervisors in such a way that, hey, what is the theory all about? Yeah, okay. How are you going to adopt the theory? Which theory is going to support your research framework? So if you were coached that way, so automatically your brain, okay, it is skewed towards using the deductive approach. Yeah, okay. And inductive costs a lot of time to read and understand. Well, I have my reservations on this, okay, but whatever approach that you do, you embark on, you still need to have a lot of times to get to read and to understand. Okay. Okay. Morning, Prof. I read from different pieces. Some scholars are using abductive approach. Well, is Prof. Ame here? This is very strange. Something even I've seen here, Prof. Ruhaya here, right? I'm not sure. I have to yet. Let me check whether is there any such word of abductive approach.
Prof.
Ame?
I provided a link below that. Just below that there is such approach called abductive approach, but it's sort of a mix between the two, Prof.
Yeah, abductive approach. Yeah, actually is there. Actually, is something like, if I'm not mistaken, it's something like a logical inference. Yeah. How do I say that? Yeah, abductive approach. It's some part of observation. Is it between deductive and inductive? Yeah, Prof. Ame?
Yeah, Prof. Sort of. Because sometimes it both inductive, deductive does not address it, so they go for abductive.
Yeah, so in a way, yes, you can. This is something not very common where the students are taking this approach, but yes, you can do that. Yeah? But basically, you're trying to maneuver between the two, inductive and deductive, And the most likeliest is that to provide a possible explanation, you want to draw the inferences from the variables that you studied. Yeah, okay. And that can make a good contribution, especially if you are doing a DBA or PhD in industry. Right, so Prof. Amir has put that. Yeah, thank you, Prof. Amir, for that abductive approach. That's a reading. Secondary data from Berza is used. What is the foreseen issue during data analysis? Okay, right, so we will move to that later on. Yeah, okay, for data analysis, for example, like if you are doing a finance study, and obviously you have to do, you use the econometrics modeling, get the right software. Yeah? Okay. Right. Okay, it's 11:30.
I have one question, ma'am. May I ask one question?
Yes, Mr. Muhammad. Yep. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Recently, I'm working in the construction industry of Malaysia. And then I know that CIDB have a very updated website. And then from the CIDB website, we can get all the populations number and company number. So one of my supervisor, okay, he asked me to why not you use the G power instead of using the Crazy and Morgan. But actually there is a debate that the Crazy and Morgan is very old, reference 1970. So why not use the new statistical tools or software? So far I found the G power, but the problem is G power, a lot of experts suggested to use for the non-probability sampling. But if I have the probability sampling and I have the complete list of the companies and contracts, so how can I go for the non-probability? And my question is, can I go, may I use the two approach in one study, like Crazy and Morgan and also G power, and then I decided that I use this approach.
Yes, you can. You can. Yes, you can use this both approach, okay? Then you make a comparison. Under the G power, what would be the best sampling size? And from the Crazy and Morgan, what would be the best sampling size? And you decide and justify it. You can do that. I've seen
Crazy and Morgan giving the higher number of the sampling, but the G power based on the predictor, we can get the 150, 130, like this sample size, always the less than the Crazy and Morgan.
Yeah.
So any alignment? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Then again, when it comes to analysis, for example, you want to submit to PLS, right? You want to use a PLS, okay? Because PLS has certain ruling that is actually they require not less than 200 data points, right? So this is also another issue when people who are using the PLS, but actually when I read the PLS thoroughly, there is also some tricky aspect on that one. It's actually not necessary if you don't meet that 200 points, 200 data points. Yeah, you need to consult the guru or the PLS, Professor Ramaya as well on this one. Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let me move on a little bit more. In the next half an hour. Okay. Okay. The second part on data analysis. If anyone wants to have a drink or whatever, please do. Yeah. Okay. I'm taking my drink as well. So far, so good. So far, okay with you guys?
Yes, Prof.
Yes, Prof.
Yes. So
Yes,
far, so
Prof.
Right. Okay. If I'm going too fast, please. Okay. My rhythm, is it okay?
Yes, Prof.
Manageable.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
So
okay.
the second part, okay, on the data analysis and interpretation. So actually, we can move this to the after lunch. Actually, right? But I would rather get more questions from you before we before we stop. Then at 2 o'clock, we will move to the data analysis part. Yeah. Okay. Data analysis part is what I mentioned this morning. Okay, can be very crucial as well, right? Because it will guide us to the right decision making. if you're doing a PhD in management or DBA and equivalent. Yeah. So the learning outcomes that what I'm going to expect from you is for you to understand what are the procedures involved in data analysis. Second, to understand what is measurement model and structural model. Third is to be able to interpret research findings. And the last one is to make good decision based on evidence or empirical data. Yeah. Okay. So that's what we're going to discuss at 2 o'clock today. But I'm going to get more questions and to share you more about the research methodology parts. If there's any questions from you guys. We are actually we are quite on time, right? Let me share with you if I can share something here, but I'm afraid I cannot share the whole thesis. I can only show to you. It's not there. Any questions?
Prof, can I ask
Sure.
regarding
Please.
about journal articles? Just now you have mentioned that supervisor might actually ask the students to actually get good journal articles. What if if I actually found some journal articles which is not published in Scopus or those reputable one, but the concept seems to be okay. So what happened is that when I wanted to do my research based on secondary data harvesting, I was advised not to put in the journal articles that I'm actually referring to. Even when I actually referring to the articles, I find that there are some methodology mismatch and whatsoever, but the concept is actually rather good. I mean that it is actually happening, and I am actually tweaking the concept because it is actually happening. So when I actually write my dissertation, should I actually quote this journal articles? Because I do not want to actually make a, I mean, people actually have that concept, but in the methodology part might be not doing it in a good way. But when I wanted to do it in a better way, because some of the variables, I actually changed it and whatsoever, do I need to quote these journal articles? Because I feel not good in not quoting, but if I quote, then it might not be from the reputable journal, which my supervisor advised me that I should only get from reputable journal. So I'm actually in dilemma.
Right. Okay. So you want to code it in your literature part or in the instrument? You want?
I wanted to code it in both part, in the sense of certain part of it, I take it as, because some of the variables that the author has used, I will actually use back. Of course, it's relevant to me.
Okay.
Yes, and so I would actually like to adopt that portion, but of course my framework, I will also insert the moderating variables, which actually will be look different from what the author has developed, the framework of the author. But what happened is that the variables, the independent variables that he is adopting is actually almost similar. It's actually similar to what I'm doing, but it's just that the idea of extracting the data is different, because he's actually extracting from other sources and I'm actually doing it on other sources.
Okay, right. You cited from a reference, right? Okay, and this reference, you feel that the variables that he has used is relevant to what you're going to use, right? Okay, have you checked, okay, when he adopt that variables and the items that he have developed, from which sources? Have you checked that?
Because as what you have mentioned, Prof, you mentioned that for secondary data, it seems like a perfect model because every information was actually obtained from Bursa. So the information that he put in, right, like debt to equity ratio, equity to asset ratio is actually universal. One thing is actually universal. And yeah, so I'm
you are dilemma, okay, whether you want to quote, okay, if when you read that articles, okay, and he is, I'm sure he's also citing from somewhere, right?
Yes, he is actually citing from somewhere.
So what you can do, the way you can put that, you can put, for example, okay, you cited this statement from Roslina. Let's say the original is Roslina, right? Roslina 2011 in Anis 2020. You can do that. Meaning here, you are addressing both. Yeah, both. You know that he's getting that information from somewhere else and you can write that. So the original information which he cited in his article.
That means in my reference, right? This
in your author, reference, it will be the second author, the latest author, not Roslina, but Anis.
Then Anis will not be from the reputable journal, right, Prof? Is it?
Yeah, it is not a reputable journal, but ethically you have to do that unless.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at ethical perspective. That is why I feel a dilemma whether to quote or not to quote, because my supervisor told me do not actually cite anything from not reputable journal, but I feel that. Prof, you are muted, Prof. Prof, you are muted.
Yes. Okay, unless you can get the original source. Normally, when we read an article, there's always a reference. Try to find the reference from that reference that you read. So then you have that multiplying effect, actually. Yeah, from one article, you can get another few articles. But of course, frankly speaking, if you're going to publish your work, okay, because one of the conditions that the reputable journals will look at the references that you cited, it has to come from the reputable journals. That's one. And then the items that you use, okay, in developing your questionnaire, those items needs to come also from very high reliability and significant sources of references and quote unquote a reputable publications or people lah. Yeah, okay. But having said this, okay, it's actually depending on school of thought. Some school of thoughts, they really go on it. Nowadays, when you talk about good and reputable journals, these are one of the conditions that they look at it. Where do you get it? But I'm involved in several journals actually, yeah, as a good reputable journals. We actually do not look at it. Too many journals or too many articles to be reviewed. How can we, this is just, don't quote me, okay? All right, sometimes we don't have enough time to read. Okay, so your items comes from, let's say, it comes from Hafiza Eni. Who is this Hafiza? Hafiza published in Sustainable Journal. Okay, but Hafiza is not the original developer of this item. Is it someone else? Is it really Juran in 1970? But why didn't he cite Juran 1970? Instead, he cited Hafiza 2020. You see? So that sometimes you got to be very smart, but ethical in citing your references. That's all I can advise you, Miss Anis. Yeah, that's a way actually how you. Okay.
Thank you so much, Prof.
All right. Any other questions?
Professor, can I ask one question?
Sure. Mr. Lee,
So I'm currently doing a research about how the COVID-19 going to impact, have any influences on all those kind of enterprises. But I'm using, my plan is using qualitative, but right now I'm thinking, because I'm actually conducting my research based on other theses, but they only interviewed five samples, okay, only 5 enterprises. But my question is, if I'm only like interview limited like enterprises, you can always criticize me for like limited objects, right? So how can I solve this problem? Because like I cannot interview all the enterprises in China or maybe all enterprises in the world, but then so that there is always be pitfall for me. Like you can always criticize that my research is not insufficient, because like I'm not interviewing like all types of enterprises. How like how can I solve this problem?
Okay, Mr. Lee, all right, okay, you're doing something on the impact of enterprises. What impact? Factors?
COVID-19, how COVID-19.
The impact of COVID-19 on?
Like on enterprises, on their
what is your measurement? Sustainability?
Yeah, sustainability, yeah.
Sustainability of the enterprises during the COVID-19, right? Okay.
Yes.
Then, okay, what is the justifications for because you've seen that during the COVID-19, there are a lot of enterprises, and of course, I'm sure that you have defined what is enterprises all about. Yeah? It can be small, it can be big, or it can be medium, right? And what type of enterprises, because it's too wide, because there are many types of enterprises. So you got to really narrow down, right? Okay, in your chapter 1, right, you must narrow down the focus of the study, because you're going to use a qualitative design, right? You said just now you want to use a qualitative design, so you got to narrow it down, okay? Right, because my cautions to those who are using qualitative design, okay, go back to your chapter 1, okay? When you talk about a specific setting, for example, like in this case, Mr. Lee, you said about enterprises. If I may ask, what type of enterprises?
I mainly focus on small and medium enterprises.
Okay, small and medium. What type of industries they are in? Apparel.
Service industry, manufacturing, service industry, manufacturing.
Service, still manufacturing is still big. So you're talking about service industries, okay? Okay, you're talking about, okay, service industries, okay, how many there? Maybe I'm sure you have streamlined into a certain zone in China, yeah, there's a certain zone. And then why then you need to describe us, okay, among all these, what is the population like of the service industry in particular area? Because China is very big. So maybe you need to focus down the area, which particular area, even though if you're taking in Shanghai, so which particular area or district in Shanghai, and what would be the population frame in Shanghai? Is it true? Do you have the data that telling you there are a lot of service enterprises were closing down due to this COVID-19. So I'm sure you have that data. Then from that, let's say, assuming there were 100 enterprises, right? Sorry, 100 service enterprises in Shanghai. Then now, use the G-Power or Kerji and Morgan, because your unit of analysis is organizational level in this case, okay? Right? You need to understand that, okay? So students, I'm indirectly is actually trying to explain further what is unit analysis, what is the G-Power, the sampling frame, population frame, through the examples that you asked me. Okay. So then if it's 100 enterprises, if you're using a G-Power, do you remember how many? If it's G-Power of 100 population around?
Actually, I have no clue about G-Power.
Okay, so you got to refer to that, okay? Right, then the issue is that, let's say if you're using a G-Power, if you have 100 population, so it comes up to be like 15.
Okay, yep.
If you want to use a qualitative design, 15 is still big, you know?
Yep.
Still big.
Because before I'm conducting my research, I actually have a look at one essay which is conducted by Italian researcher. That researcher actually only interviewed 5 enterprises.
Yeah. Okay. But since the unit of analysis at organization level, so you want to look at the sustainability of the enterprise. So your data pods for the analysis is only 15 actually. To me, it still can be done if it's 15 because you only have 15 data.
Okay.
You only have 15 data pods. So you just need to come up with what are the measurements that you want to ask to these managers representing the 15 organizations, the 15 enterprises. Yeah, so it still can be done.
So I need to make use of G-Power to...
Either one, you can use G-Power or you want to use a Kerji, a Morgan, or you want to formulate your own. Well, if you want to formulate your own formula, the formula is actually coming from the Kerji and Morgan actually. Yeah?
Okay. And then to get my most representative samples, right? So
Yes.
that in that way I can safely draw the conclusion that I got like the most representative center.
Yes.
Samples in
It
this
goes back to the, remember, in the research methodology, it goes back to your population frame. You got your issues in your chapter 1 already. The issues is that you've seen a lot of companies that were closing down due to the COVID-19. And you want to focus on the service enterprises. So were there any data showing that the service enterprises are affected badly due to the COVID? If yes, then look at the population frame of the service enterprises. How many were there in, for example, you want to put it in the, you want to study in the district of Shanghai, right? Yep. So just see how many service industry affected in Shanghai, right? And then get the sampling frame using the G-Power, you got the number. And then what would be the sampling design? In this case, it will be a convenient sampling. Yeah, it will be a convenient sampling because you know the industry and those who are affected by the COVID-19. Yeah, and then you choose the appropriate research. In this case, you are using a deductive approach. To me, you are using a deductive approach, even though you are using a qualitative design. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Professor. Thank you so much.
Any other question or examples you want to share with me? Let me see. Don't close the... Okay. Anything I missed out from here? Data collection, shared method, specific method. How do you collect? Interview or online, right? Okay. Population, you are quite aware now. Sampling size, okay. The sampling techniques, okay. There are quite a number of sampling techniques, okay, under the probability, non-probability, for example, convenience sampling, snowballing, all those things. So make sure that because in this one day sessions, okay, it will not enough for me to, but I'm sure all of you are quite familiar with all those sampling techniques. So please read, yeah. Okay, you can read any of business research methods because they are all the same actually. And I put in some of the references also for you to browse through. Okay, let me see. Right. Okay. Any other questions? Let me see whether is there any chat from now.
Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Salam. Yeah.
Yeah, Nizam here. I just want to thank you for the sharing of the information on the difference between DBA and PhD. I'm coming from the industry, but there are certain things that I want to do because I'm from the telecommunication industry, and the issue that I want to resolve is regarding digital divide. But when I started trying to consider which one, I straight away to go to do my PhD rather than DBA. But after your explanation just now, I realized that the issue that I want to resolve is more suitable for DBA rather than PhD because it's very specific to the problem that we want to resolve.
Okay.
So now I'm having two minds whether to proceed with the PhD ataupun actually DBA should be more suitable for me rather than because it's industry-led issue rather than enhancing the body of knowledge. So I don't know. Perhaps you have some advice for me.
Okay. May I know what is the issues that is suppressing at the moment that you want to solve?
Actually, it's more related to digital divide.
Digital
between
divide.
rural and urban in Malaysia.
Yeah,
so it's very
From what I'm quite also familiar about these issues on digital divide between the urban and rural area, even urban in suburban areas also a problem, isn't it? Right? Not just talking about urban area,
especially during the pandemic, right? I think the problem became very clear that despite the government investment in the area under the MCMC, the USP fund, they're still lacking in terms of connectivity in the rural because when students studying online, they did not be able to get a good connectivity. Therefore, they have to climb hills, climb trees to get a good connectivity. So I think that is the problem that I see needs some unveiling.
Yeah. To me, my quick advice when I heard about this statement from you, it has to be an industry-driven research. Yeah. So basically, you need to go for your industry-driven. I would not say DBA or maybe PhD in industry. I'm not sure where do you register yourself. Are you which universities are you from now?
I registered with Putra Business School, UPM.
Putra ada DBA ke?
Ada. Because I mula-mula tu I'm not very clear lah what I want to do, right? Okay, so from listening to you and after some discussion, I thought it's more relevant for DBA. That's my early.
Yeah, because your contribution will be very significant to the policy maker, especially the SKM, Kementerian Komunikasi, multimedia. Semualah, is very important, and also some ministry, for example, like Ministry of Rural Development, right?
That's right.
Basically, you can look at what are the factors, right? What are the factors, and actually that can increase or reduce the gap of this digital divide between the rural and the urban area, and to ensure the high connectivity. And I'm sure if you can really do a proper research on this, and it can benefits to the policy implication to the government, that would be your significant. Kalau provided there's no research has been done at the industry or at the Kementerian Komunikasi punya level lah, or even a telecommunication institute organizations, I would say that you should go for a industry-led research on this one. But bila buat industry-led research, for those are DBA students here, the lingo of writing your chapter 1 to, it has to be like industry-driven, and then make sure that you support with all those data, right? Data yang menunjukkan there is a digital divide, masa bagian introduction background of the study itu tadi.
Right,
And then
right.
when it comes to your research problem, make sure it is more practical and support. Then only you support with literature yang from the article journals tu tadi. But you have to come from the practical approach first. You've seen this, there is a problem from the industry point of view. And the problem has to be supported by the real data. That is the primary data. Real data. Kalau boleh, kalau SKM ada data ataupun your telco ada data ke menunjukkan the connectivity, there is a discrepancy between the urban and rural area. So that will be good. Just put in your chapter 1 that. Yeah?
Chapter 1, huh?
Yes.
So you think doctor is a professor, it should be industry-led PhD lah. But it's not actually DBA, right? It's still a PhD.
It's still
but it's a industry, it's still a research, yeah.
Kalau you register as a PhD student, the lingo is different.
Betul,
My worry is different. That's why kalau people from the corporate people like you, Cik Nizam, right? I would suggest that you register a DBA program rather than register a PhD under a PhD program. Yeah.
Yeah, because I find it now increasingly difficult to actually to fit into the PhD format, because the intention was actually to resolve, to actually find out what the real problems in the digital divide in Malaysia. So macam tak kena, you know, because you come from different angle.
Yes, because nanti bila buat PhD dia very theoretical. Nanti dia akan tanya, lah research gap, you know. So kadang-kadang saya actually from a PhD, I'm grounded from a PhD way, but I understand the DBA but I have to supervise DBA students, you know, examine DBA students. So I have to be fair to the DBA student. We cannot be examine same. Ini for professors who are here, okay. You cannot examine PhD student dengan DBA student the same way, because the rubric is different. Yeah, it's not fair nanti to the DBA student. So that's my advice, Cik Nizam. Yeah, okay. Like the what?
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah? Okay. All right. Any other questions before we
Prof.
stop?
Assalamualaikum.
Yes.
Thank you, Prof.
Yusuf.
Yes, Prof. Thank you so much for your insightful session. And during question answer session, we have learned a lot. My question is that actually I am a passionate trainer, and I am interested to do my research on training effectiveness.
Okay.
But during my class, my teacher just suggested me that your topic is so related with DBA program, not PhD. So after 1 year, I just changed my mind, and right now I am working to intention to leave. But still I am hunger to work with training effectiveness in PhD mode. So today I have observed you so many times. You just noted training effectiveness during your presentation. So I am curious to know that if right now I am thinking again to work on training effectiveness in PhD mode, is it suitable for me?
You can do that. If you want to do a training to study on training effectiveness under the PhD mode, also can, no problem. But I need to know for a PhD, if you're doing a training effectiveness on PhD, which, because the critical part when you are researching on effectiveness, anything lah, stress management program, the training program, the whatever, even those who are medical doctor who want to test their capsule whether it's effective, I need to know which training effectiveness are you referring to, because you cannot.
Right, ma'am. I want to work on sales training effectiveness, basically.
Sales training effectiveness among
pharmaceuticals industry in Bangladesh, like medical representatives.
Okay. So this sales training effectiveness, the module has been developed and has been implemented?
Yeah, already implemented many times.
Okay. What is the issues? the employees are not able to increase productivity despite the training has been given? What is the
No.
issue?
Basically, one or two companies, they are implemented this and they are getting results, but lots of companies, they don't rely on it that it will be worked.
Come again, the result, what sort of result? Worse? Declining?
No, those who are trained,
Yeah.
they are getting results.
So the result is measured through
Especially
what?
like their behavior, their performance, their sales, both are increasing. But those company right now, it's not implemented. They are not going to believe this, that it will work, because lots of companies, CEO or C-suite level, they are not relying that this kinds of training will work.
Okay, then in that case, because you actually got the answer already, you seem that those companies who have already introduced this sales training among their employees, they can see positive result as compared to those who have not given the sales training to their employees. The results are not as conducive, as attractive as what they expect. You know the answer already, actually. So why do you need to do this research? Let me be a little bit brutal to you, yeah? Okay, so you know the answer that is already proven. So why do you need to do this research?
Thank you, ma'am. Basically, still, this result is not so well documented or well prepared. This is simply some of the statements due to their supervisor or some HR managers that just told us, but we want to work on more professionally and with full process oriented way. That could be a legal paper, or that could be a reference paper that everyone must be rely on it.
Right. So the scenario or the background of the study, which you have observed just now, so you can put it in your background of the study, which is your chapter 1. You can tell that in a way that you've seen the pattern from your observation, you've seen the pattern that if the industry is actually imposing on the sales and training program, you see the positive result as compared to those who are not. Okay, so now you want to affirm it through your study so that it can become like what you say, that maybe there could be some national implication on policy and implementation on that note. Yes, you can do that. And the methodology that I would advise you to do this, okay, it can be done within 3 years. If you want to go for experimental design, for example, you take the companies, okay, who have not been exposed to this sales training, give them this sales and training program, and get a different 2 groups actually in one company, and a different another company also different 2 groups, one control group and one is the we call it the tested group. Then you can measure before and after, so it can comes under the PhD study as well. Because the theoretical part, I would say, for if this is the case that you want to, you can use Kirkpatrick model in that sense, yeah, to govern your research framework. And also, I can't remember, there's 2 ladies actually also good, but of course the renowned theoretical background, that you can use the Kirkpatrick models to govern your research framework. Yes, you can do under your PhD program.
Prof, thank you so much for your clarity.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, let me see if there's any more questions before we take a break.
Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikum salam. Yes, Miss Isra. Yeah?
Yes, Isra from UNITAR.
Where are you from, Isra?
From Iraq.
From Iraq. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm studying in UNITAR.
UNITAR.
Yes. I'm planning to do about the educational technology.
educational technology, yeah?
Yes, in my country after COVID-19, and I want to study about the effectiveness of such educational technology that using after COVID-19, during COVID-19 and post COVID-19. And I'm planning to do mixed method, but I don't know. Could you advise me to like using qualitative first or quantitative?
Okay, right. You want to study the education, the applications of educational technologies after COVID-19, the adaptation of educational technology, and what is the what I say that the dependent variable. I'm sure you have discussed this in your chapter 1, right? Previously. So what is the outcome of the using the educational technology?
For me, mobile learning, you know about mobile learning, and I want to study the effectiveness of mobile learning in my country, because the current situation is unknown. So, and there is no many studies about it. There is lack of studies.
So how do you measure effectiveness of mobile learning? Are you
for a quantitative?
No, how are you going to measure the the effectiveness of mobile learning? Are you going to measure in the sense that students are more motivated?
Intention. The intention.
Intention of what?
Is satisfaction and intention.
Satisfactions of student.
Yes.
Because you said just now the effectiveness, right? The effectiveness of mobile learning.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you have this educational technology is actually the platform. Okay. Educational technology is the platform, and effectiveness of the mobile learning. Okay. My question is that, okay, how are you going to, what is the outcome if the students are more satisfied with the technology, they are more motivated to learn? Because
I'm planning for the population, I'm planning to study for qualitative
Before I could guide you whether you want to do a qualitative or you want to use qualitative or quantitative, I need to understand the phenomena that you want to study first. Okay, that's why I'm trying to understand the intention of your work, your study. You want to study on educational technology. You want to see the effectiveness of the mobile learning. Okay, so how do you plan to measure? But don't think about you want to use quantitative or qualitative, because I need you to understand what is the issues that you want to study now.
Because there is lack of acceptance in within student. So
acceptance.
Yes.
Come on, just explain in simple form.
Can you give me example how to measure the effectiveness?
If you ask me straight away questions, okay, how to measure effectiveness? There's a many way, okay, but it depending on the scope of study. For example, effectiveness, it could be students more motivated to learn. That's also measure of effectiveness, right? If you can see the students are more motivated to learn using this through ODL or open distance learning, okay, through mobile, that's also effectiveness, right? So that's why you have to go back to your research issues, your research problem. What is the research problem? Okay, and then if the respondent is big, you want to investigate among students' acceptance. My suggestion is for you to use a quantitative design. Yeah, develop a questionnaire, right? Some items in the questionnaire, and then give it to the students. So then you can see the students' motivations of learning using this educational technology, how they perceive the quality of the educational technology in the universities. You can also measure that. Yeah.
And also I want to measure the lecturer's view. So
okay, you want also to measure, so you have two different respondents group.
Yes.
The lecturers, which are the academics, and the students. You can have that. But okay, my cautious to everyone here. Okay, if you have two different group of respondents, yeah, okay, you have to address it from the very beginning in your chapter 1. Okay, right. The scenario of the research, why do you need to have these two different groups? Okay, and when it comes to your research methodology, designing the questionnaire, designing the instrument, the questionnaire to be answered, right? Try to ensure the G's, the purpose of the measurements, okay, the purpose you want to measure is the same for the two groups. You cannot be measuring apple and orange and then you want to make a comparison. No. Okay, right. Try to ensure that the lingo can be slightly different, but the objective of the measurement through your questionnaire must be the same, even though it is for different group of respondents. Then only when it comes to data analysis, you can make a comparative study between using the t-test, yeah, using the t-test, you can see the differences between the two groups in terms of their perceptions of the variables study. You can do that, Isra, yeah, but you have to be very clear from your chapter 1, okay, why do you need to investigate the perceptions of the academics towards the quality of educational technology. And then from the students' point of view, also you may want to measure the same thing, their perceptions toward the quality of the educational technologies, plus students, for the students, okay, the ability to motivate them to study. Because the outcome of the good educational technologies is for the students to increase their motivations and perhaps to improve their quality of learning. Yeah, okay. So this can be done actually, yeah. Okay, you can have two different groups, but my advice is for you to use a quantitative design, not qualitative.
And if I want to mix with the qualitative also, but I want interview for lecturers and questionnaire for students.
Okay, all right, because if the lecturers just for interview and students for the quantitative, okay, this will be a catch for you later on when it comes to examinations, your viva, because how do you triangulate when you have a different respondent and you have a different mode of asking the question, different question to be asked, okay, unless you have a different thing. Why is that? How do you triangulate it? Because we need to go back to the reliability of the process, not just the reliability of the instrument, but the reliability of the process, because you need to justify why you want to interview the lecturers and what are the purpose of the interviewing the lecturers and why you want to use quantitative design for the students and what is the purpose for the students. Yeah, so you have to be very careful on this one. I'm not saying that you can't do, you can do, but discuss with your supervisors thoroughly. I've experienced on this in this matter. Okay, last time I do have my students also wanted to have this, but you're going to be very tricky. But I'm not saying that it is not possible. It is possible, but you have to very clear from the very beginning. Yeah, okay, you have two sets of respondents. So you must ask yourself, okay, for this respondent A, I'm going to, what is the purpose of the measurement? For this respondent B, what is the purpose of the measurement? And go back to your research objectives. Yeah, okay.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, any other questions? I can take up one or two more before we adjourn. Goes one, goes two, goes three. Okay, all right. So since there's no more questions, so I think we can take a break. If there's any more questions that you discover from my notes, my slides, okay, you can ask me later. So we shall meet back at 2 o'clock. So Dr. Zam or Puan Hafiza, so shall I pass back to you as the organizer? Thank you very much. And Assalamualaikum daripada wabillahi taufiq wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi daripada saya.
Waalaikumsalam. Terima kasih, Prof.
So kita jumpa balik pukul 2 ya. Dr. Cik Hafiza? Siapa guys?
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Prof.
you, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Prof.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Where are you from, Mr. Kuwata?
From Nigeria.
From
Prof, thank you so
Nigeria.
much.
Okay. So
Yes, I just prayed the morning prayers. 7 hours
okay.
away.
I'm sure it is very early there, right?
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you, Prof.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Prof.
Welcome.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
Salam.
Terima kasih, Prof. Jumpa pukul 2.
Salam. Where do you study, Mr. Kuwata?
Sorry,
UNITAR? Where do you study now?
entrepreneurship.
In UNITAR.
Universiti Malaysia, Kelantan.
Oh,
UMK.
UMK. Okay.
Yeah.
So you are a
Yes.
friend of Solomon.
Yes.
I see. I see. Okay. All right. Thanks
Yeah.
for joining.
Thank you.
Okay, I will leave now. So we'll come back at 2 p.m. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, Prof.